is my review for the Tron Legacy Deluxe Class 8-inch Blackguard figure. I will say right off the bat, for me, the Blackguard were really the only letdown character for me in all of Tron Legacy. I didn't think that they weren't cool or anything. I definitely thought that they had a wicked cool design. I really dig their design, and I still do to this day. But I just felt like they didn't do enough with them, that they could have done a whole lot more with them. Granted, a lot of the scenes that they were in were cool, but I just felt that they could have done a whole lot with them. So for me, they were really the only letdown character in Tron Legacy. But I will say, overall, I think that this figure is really cool. I don't know the 3 3/4 inch version, but I will say this guy's fairly cool. So if you're unsure about the 3 3/4 inch figure, I definitely think that this guy is definitely worth purchasing. Granted, my opinion of that might change after I get the 3 3/4 inch figure, but we'll have to see. But very cool figure. I really like it. I'll get that right out of the way. Just like with the Rinsler figure, it does have some spectacular detailing. It does have the same circular pattern that's meant to represent fabric. Just gorgeous detailing on these 8-inch figures. I really like it. I really do like the face on the Blackguard too. It was really neat because unlike any other character in the movie, you never saw any part of their face. I mean, you didn't see Rinsler's face either, but you kind of knew who he was, so you kind of knew what he looked like if you had seen the original Tron. But anyway, you really couldn't see the Blackguard's face, and I just thought that was really wicked cool. The mask is really awesome. It almost looks like a face in and of itself, which I think is really cool. It kind of looks like the old Fly from the 1950s Fly movie, which I think is neat. It does have this really neat little coil back here, which I think is kind of neat. Very cool. You go down to his legs, and he does have these really weird, really alien-looking dials on his legs, which is pretty cool. You go back here, he does kind of have these exhaust pipe type things, which is really neat. Just overall gorgeous detailing on these 8-inch figures. Very good detailing. Very cool. For posability, he does have a little bit less articulation than the Rinsler figure. His head does rotate left and right. It only goes ever so slightly, which is a bit of a shame. I'm not really sure what it is that's inhibiting it too, so that it is a real shame that he can't look any farther left and right, but oh well. It also appears that he does have a neck joint, because you can't really tell in the video, but in person, when you turn his head, his neck moves ever so slightly, so I'm assuming that there actually is a joint in his neck to allow his neck to rotate, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't turn very freely, which is a bit of a shame, because a lot of mainline figures don't have neck joints. It's really only for specialty figures, so I'm really disappointed that they gave him a neck joint, but he can't really use it, but oh well, still pretty cool that they did add it, nonetheless. His shoulders do rotate 360 degrees. They go in and out. His shoulders also, I should mention, do rotate a lot better than on the Rinsler figure. They don't get stuck anywhere. You can rotate them just fine without fear of them snapping off, which is nice. He does also have a mid-bicep swivel, which is nice. He bends at the elbow. Again, they don't bend very far at the elbow, which is one of my main complaints about the 8-inch figures, but he does still bend at the elbow, which is nice. He does also rotate at the elbow. It doesn't rotate as much as the Rinsler figure does, just due to the sculpt, but it does still rotate, which is nice. His hands do rotate. Again, I would have liked an in and out joint, but they did include it, so I can't complain about it too much. I don't really like the hip joints, as I mentioned in my Rinsler review. I think that if anything that I would have changed on these 8-inch figures, it definitely would have been these hip joints. They work a little bit better on this guy than they do on Rinsler. They're a little bit more free. You can get his legs out a lot farther than on the Rinsler figure, but they're still really difficult to work with. I think that they should have gone with a better system and giving them hip joints. It is nice that they did include that kind of circle pattern detailing, which I think is neat, but I still would have preferred a different hip joint design. But anyway, he does rotate at the upper thigh, which is nice. He bends at the knee. He also does apparently rotate at the knee. He's got a knee rotation joint, at least, but just due to the sculpt, it's really not that useful, which is a bit of a shame, but oh well. His feet also do rotate. They can't go up and down. At least it does appear that he does have the joint, but just due to the sculpt, he just can't move his feet at all, which is a bit of a shame. But oh well, I usually keep these guys in flat-footed stances anyway, so it's really not that big a deal. Now, as you can see, he does come with some accessories. He doesn't come with as many accessories as Rinsler, but he does come with some accessories. He does have his ID disc, which is pretty much just the same disc as Rinsler, but oh well. I really would have liked it, as I mentioned in my Rinsler review, if they had painted the outside of this orange, or maybe even white. I think white would have looked just fine, but I'm really, really disappointed that they didn't paint the outside of this, and they didn't do that on any of the Tron Legacy toys, which I've always been a little bit bummed about, but oh well. Now, he can hold it in his hand. It's very, very difficult just due to the hands being in very closed fist sculpt, but you can get him to hold his ID disc. I'm not going to do it on camera since it is very, very difficult and it takes a lot of fiddling to get him to hold it. But also, and I forgot to mention this on the Rinsler figure, but the Rinsler figure can do the exact same thing. You can take the ID disc. There's a little slot and tab system built into his back, a lot like in the movie. And what you do, there's some tiny, tiny grooves in the ID disc, and what you do is you take it, you find those grooves and line it up with the slot and tab system. You can lock it onto his back. I wish it had the ability to turn, like in the movie when the sirens kind of turn the disc and it kind of digitized Sam, but oh well, still pretty cool. And again, Rinsler can do the same thing. He does have the same slot and tab system, although again, I usually do display Rinsler with his 2 ID discs, since to me that is the defining characteristic of Rinsler, is that he had 2 ID discs. But anyway, he also does come with these 2 batons, which are kind of weird, mostly just due to the way that they store. They do have an orange detailing on both sides of them, which is pretty neat. You can see that they end kind of in an odd angle. It's a little bit more it's a little bit thinner than the rest of the baton. The reason for that is that the way that he stores these is different than any of the other figures, because as you can see, just due with all this dial detailing down his legs, he doesn't have the standard peg that the rest of them have. But what he does have, as you can kind of see right here, up on his elbow, he does have a little hole cut in. What you do is you take the batons, take the thinner end of them, you insert them into his arms, which gives him these kind of elbow spikes, which I think is really, really cool. It really, really looks neat, which I think is cool. He also does come with these wings, which is really, really cool. It's not really showing up too well on camera, but these things do have a very, very nice texture and amount of detailing to them. Very, very neat. I would have liked it if maybe they were in a darker shade of orange, but oh well, they still do look pretty neat. The way that you attach them is you go and turn him around, and as you can see on his back, he's got 2 holes cut into his back and 2 smaller holes up near the top. There's a hook and tab system right here, as well as a peg. And what you do is you take the hook tab, and you kind of have to place it in, then work with the peg to place it in. You don't want to work with the peg first, because then it just will end up snapping this tab off, but you really do want to go with the hook and tab system first, meaning you should use the hook tab first. Anyway, so that does look fairly cool. Again, I would have liked it if the wings were a little bit darker of orange color, but still does look pretty neat. Now for his light up gimmick, I really, really like this light up gimmick. I think it's the best out of all the figures that I have in the Tron Legacy line so far. I think that this is a really, really nice light up gimmick, which is why I saved it for last. He does have the same button. It's a little bit lower than on Rinsler. It's more at his ab joint, or his abs, I don't know. I've had a long day, so I'm a little bit tired. Anyway, I'll go ahead and kill my lights real quick. What you do is you take that button and you push it. It just lights up this gorgeous, gorgeous amber red color, or rather amber orange. It's just a really, really nice color. And I'll show it off again. It's just a beautiful shade. The camera's not really picking up just how awesome this looks, which is a bit of a shame, but it's really, really gorgeous. I really, really do like the light up gimmick on this guy. Also, because I forgot, I do usually give him the baton, or baton staff that came with Rinsler. You can insert that into his hands. He also can hold this double-handed. It's not too hard to get him to hold it double-handed, but it is kind of hard to pose him with it, which is why I'm not going to show him off using it double-handed. But it does look pretty cool. It is nice for him to have kind of a weapon that he can hold, which I think is neat. He also can hold the batons in his hands pretty easily, which I forgot to mention. But anyway, so for a real quick size comparison, first off, here he's next to Rinsler. You can see at the head he's just a tiny bit taller than Rinsler. Not by much. It's more like a millimeter or so. It's really small, the difference in height between them. But he still is a little bit taller than Rinsler, which I think is accurate. I mean, I think that the Black Guard were taller than the average Tron citizen, but they are very cool, very nicely scaled. And also, again, since I did in the Rinsler review, I haven't reviewed this guy yet, but here he is next to a standard 6-inch figure, DC Universe Firestorm. So you can see, like with Rinsler, he's much more of an 8-inch figure than a 6-inch figure, but still very nicely scaled, very cool. So overall, yeah, I really like this guy. Again, their characters were a bit disappointing in the movie, at least from my viewpoint. It really is a matter of personal preference. But I highly recommend this guy. I think he's really cool. Again, I think that he has the best light-up gimmick of all of them, and I think that he looks really neat. I've always liked the design of these guys, so I definitely highly recommend these guys. They're definitely worth having in your Tron collection. So there you go, my look at the Tron Legacy Deluxe Class 8-inch Black Guard figure. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.